Hello and welcome to the program, UFO Warning. In this episode, we're taking a look at the Monica Reza case. That's correct, the Monica Reza case. This kind of goes along with these missing UFO scientists people have been talking about. I've kind of avoided talking about the subject too much because I'm just not sure. I kind of feel like a lot of scientists have been clumped in together, and maybe people are generalizing a bit. But this one really stood out to me, and I wanted to take a look at it. Now, the Monica Reza case has become one of those modern mysteries that instantly grabs the attention of true crime followers, people in the UFO community, and it's because on the surface it looks like a missing hiker case. But once you start pulling on the threads a little bit, it really touches aerospace black projects, advanced rocket technology, military secrecy, and a retired Air Force general with strong UFO world connections. Now, for people interested in hidden technology or disclosure and the possibility that certain scientists know too much, Monica Reza's disappearance sits right in that uncomfortable gray zone between ordinary tragedy and something a lot stranger. And that's kind of why I've put off talking about this stuff too much. I don't want to compound somebody's already tragic situation. Some of these cases look to me like it might be people with physical or mental health issues. Maybe they just couldn't bear it any longer because of the physical pain or something. And rather than put their family through a funeral or hospice, they've decided to just take their own, well, you know what. Now, that's what it looks like on the surface to me. I can't say for sure. And if that's the case, I think like me, I think none of us want to see those folks have to go through any more problems. But this case here was a little stranger than that. Now, Monica Jacinto Reza, sometimes listed professionally as Monica Jacinto, she just wasn't an ordinary engineer. This is a really, really smart lady. She was highly respected. She was an aerospace materials scientist, and she had about 30 years of work tied to advanced propulsion systems. She spent a lot of her career at Aerojet Rocketdyne, and that's one of the biggest major U.S. defense contractors, and it's deeply involved in missile systems, rocket engines, and military aerospace technology. So she's right there at the heart of it. And you can imagine it's a very important job. She was known for helping develop and patent a specialized nickel superalloy, was reportedly used in next generation rocket engines. Now, a couple years ago, maybe it's been 3 or 4 years ago, we talked about Tom DeLonge and all these UFO metamaterials. Kind of just seemed to disappear. At one point, they were talking about using one of these metamaterials they found and developing it into some sort of cloaking device for tanks. So this is where you get into this crossover, into these really almost super alloys and what people think is UFO metamaterial, stuff that's fallen off UFOs, pieces of metal that have been found at UFO landings or sightings or whatever. Now, in UFO circles, this detail about her working on this stuff, that detail, it immediately raised eyebrows because advanced propulsion systems are often discussed in relation to black budget and aerospace programs and alleged reverse engineering projects. A lot of people think they've got one of these UFOs and they're reverse engineering it. This is kind of for the three-dimensional crowd that sees these things as nuts and bolt craft. Well, for a lot of these folks, think that the deep state has already got one and they're trying to re-engineer it. Now, the argument against that is that it would be like a bunch of Stone Age tribesmen trying to reverse engineer a nuclear submarine. Kind of go back and forth on that. Now, by 24 to 25, reports indicate she had connections to NASA, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, that's JPL, with some reports describing her as working in a leadership role involving materials processing. Back to this materials processing again. Now, Newsweek later referred to her as a NASA-linked aerospace engineer and listed her among experts tied to advanced research. Now, this is important because JPL is not just another lab. It sits near the center of major U.S. aerospace research, deep space missions, and highly sensitive propulsion development. Remember, the same kind of rocket that could send man to the moon and back is the same kind of rocket where they could plant a special gift, say, for our enemies halfway across the globe. So it's very important stuff. It's very much involved with defense, and it's oftentimes top secret, beyond top secret, as they say. Now, getting to her disappearance, on June 22nd, 2025, Monica Reza went hiking near Mount Waterman in the Angeles National Forest in the Los Angeles mountain region. She was not alone. She was hiking with two companions, a man and a woman. According to later reporting, the detail that keeps haunting people is this: she was reportedly only about 30 feet behind one of her companions. She smiled, she waved, she appeared completely normal. Then, within moments, she was simply gone. Newsweek reported she was last seen smiling and waving about 30 feet behind her hiking companion before suddenly vanishing. No scream, no obvious struggle, no known fall, no immediate evidence of foul play, just gone. Now, when I hear that story right there, I immediately think of Dave Paulides' work, Can-Am Missing 411. If you're not familiar with Dave's channel, as soon as you finish listening here, go over to Dave's YouTube channel, sign up, get his books, watch his movies. This guy is, I think, the absolute best in this segment of research as far as missing people goes. Nobody knows more about this stuff than Dave does. And he talks about something called point of separation frequently when his cases he talks about. And I listen to his cases every week. I just love this stuff. I mean, it's upsetting sometimes, but it's so mesmerizing, I can't turn it off. He talks about this point of separation where you have two or three people, they're out walking, turn around, they see the person, hey, how you doing? Okay, hey, I'll catch right up. Maybe there's a few feet between them. They turn around again, less than a minute later, maybe a few seconds, and they're gone. I mean, gone. They bring in bloodhounds. They bring in cadaver dogs. They do searches. They bring in the ground pounders, as Dave calls them. I mean, people searching on foot. They bring in helicopters. They bring in the FLIR, the heat sensors. And oftentimes, they'll go for days or weeks, and they don't find anything. Now, sometimes they'll come back 6 months or a year or two later and find a body or parts of a body. It makes no sense whatsoever. But this is what I'm seeing right here. She's following along, just like in the cases Dave talks about. They look back. They confirm she's there. She's 30 feet behind him. They turn back around again in just a few moments. I'm guessing less than 5 minutes. And she's completely gone. Now, when they say Los Alamos Forest, this is around L.A., so we're not talking redwoods. I mean, this is a very dry area. You have to wonder, where on earth could she have gone? There was a massive search for UFO believers and missing 411 followers. This detail is the gasoline on the fire. She vanished within seconds. This is one of the most repeated patterns in unexplained wilderness disappearances that you're ever going to see. Now, you got this massive search happened. Authorities did not treat this casually. I mean, think about it. This lady has a very, very special skill set. You can imagine the U.S. government probably really didn't want to lose her. According to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, a major search effort was launched immediately. They used aerial support, scent tracking dogs, ground search teams, ground pounders, unmanned aerial systems, drones, thermal imaging, wave-based locating systems. That's a new one to me. And assistance from neighboring counties. So they pulled out all the stops to find this lady. Despite all of that, Monica Reza has never been found. No body, no clothing, no definitive trail, no confirmed accident scene. Wasn't like they went back where she had just been at and found maybe blood at the scene or found where she'd slipped and fallen. Authorities later stated the case remained active and that there were no clear indications of foul play. I guess unless you consider somebody just vanishing off the face of Earth foul play, that's where the foul play's at for me. That absence of evidence is what keeps the case alive, of course. A wilderness accident should usually have something. This one did not. So you might say, well, maybe she was attacked by a mountain lion. Well, there's no evidence of that. There would have been something left there if that would have been happened. There would have been tracks. There would have been blood. She would have screamed. None of that. Now, in light of that, then we have this Major General William Neil McCasland case. Now, this is one I didn't really get into because some of the comments that his wife had made about maybe his physical state or his mental state, and it looked to me like maybe this was a voluntary disappearance, if you get my drift. But when you get into this a little bit, you kind of have to ask a couple questions. Now, retired U.S. Air Force Major General William Neil McCasland disappeared in February 2026, so just a couple months ago. McCasland was not just another retired officer. He had senior leadership roles in Air Force science, technology, and space research. He later became a figure discussed heavily in UFO circles because of his connections to advanced military research and later brief involvement with To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. Now, I've talked about that particular organization a lot on this program, and I won't get into like an hour-long rant, but we all know, I think by now, pretty much, about how when the first Tic Tac videos and that came out, being passed off by one employee to another former in the Pentagon parking lot, somehow ending up in the hands of the New York Times, somehow being flushed out there by Lou Elizondo, and then ending up on the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, that's Tom DeLonge's group, on YouTube with their watermark on it. A lot of really weird stuff, in my opinion, going on that totally muddied the waters as far as the chain of custody goes with those, 3 videos. But interesting that he was connected to those guys. His disappearance triggered renewed national attention on Monica Reza because she had previously worked on a government-funded rocket materials project overseen by McCasland. Newsweek specifically reported that Reza developed a spatial metal used in rockets through a U.S. government-funded project under his oversight. So you see the connection? This lady's doing all this really advanced research in alloys and metallurgy, and she's doing it under the oversight of this General William Neil McCasland. You suddenly have a rocket materials specialist vanishing without a trace, the Air Force general connected to her research, vanishing months later. Both are linked to sensitive aerospace work, both tied, however loosely, to UFO speculation. And that is why the internet exploded. I've been kind of ignoring this, but this is the connection. It's just, even if we consider that maybe the general's disappearance, based on things his wife said, based on the situation, maybe this wasn't an involuntary disappearance, say. But when you consider that disappearance in light of Miss Reza, then you have to really wonder, man, what is going on here? Especially when she just literally disappeared off the trail while she was hiking with other people. It wasn't like she went out there to engage in any kind of self-deletion. She was on a hiking trip, expedition, walk, whatever, with friends. If she was out there to do harm to herself or to disappear forever, I don't think she would have went out with other people. That just wouldn't make any sense. The UFO community immediately focused on several things. One, advanced propulsion materials. Obviously, I mean, these UFOs are being propelled by something. Whenever someone works on unusual alloys, superalloys, propulsion systems, or aerospace metallurgy, people naturally start asking whether the work touched classified propulsion research or even alleged reverse engineered technology. I have to ask, was Monica working on conventional rocket science? Probably. But in UFO circles, probably is never enough. And you know what? That's because we have a healthy curiosity, unlike a lot of people in this world today. Now, McCasland's reputation. Well, journalist Ross Coulthart described McCasland as someone with some of the most sensitive secrets in America, and the timing of his disappearance intensified speculation. Gotta wonder, even if this guy had all these other things going on, could he have been a target of some nefarious force? Let's just say that. Some theorists believe he may have had knowledge involving legacy UFO programs, hidden aerospace systems, or compartmentalized special access programs. When someone like that disappears, people notice. Now, there's also the timing with disclosure politics. This week, before McCasland vanished, renewed attention was placed on UFO disclosure discussions that involved the federal government, which only amplified speculation. There again, like I've said, this stuff has just been bubbling up to the top for so long, and I don't want to be the one to drag somebody's personal loss or tragedy of a missing spouse or loved one into this to speculate. There's so much talk about it right now. I felt like I had to say something. Now, suddenly, Miss Reza's older disappearance was pulled back into national focus. The story transformed from missing scientist into possible pattern. I'll tell you, the thing is, it's such a pattern at this point that we've got big league politicians involved. So you got to wonder. The missing scientist pattern. By spring 2026, media outlets and online investigators were grouping Monica Reza with several other missing or deceased scientists connected to NASA, Los Alamos National Laboratory, defense contractors, military research programs, nuclear and aerospace work. Newsweek and others noted that while no confirmed connection had been established, the clustering of these disappearances created intense public speculation. Congress members such as Representative Eric Burlison even called for FBI involvement. This is the exact environment where UFO speculation thrives, for good reason. Because there's no proof, there's no closure, lots of classified backgrounds, and just enough of coincidence to keep everyone asking questions. The thing is, we're kind of in this gray area, this valley of deception, I guess, as they would say. We don't know what's going on, really. We have limited evidence, so people are naturally going to ask questions. Now, the skeptical view says to stay grounded. That's important to say this clearly. There's currently no public evidence proving Monica Reza's disappearance is connected to UFOs, classified technology, suppression, or McCasland's disappearance. Law enforcement has not confirmed foul play. NASA has publicly said nothing indicates a national security threat from these cases. It may simply be a tragic wilderness disappearance involving an experienced professional whose career happened to be intersecting with high-level defense work. Now, that's the mainstream explanation, and it may be correct. Who knows? But there's a reason that this case still haunts people. Quite a few reasons. Because ordinary hiking accidents usually end with answers. This one didn't. A top aerospace scientist vanished while only steps from friends. Think about that. Just a few steps around, you turn back, they're gone. I'm not talking about a little child or a toddler who could have gotten scooped up by somebody. A full-grown adult. There were no remains found, no clear trail, no explanation. Don't forget they brought in the dogs, too, to pick up a scent. Nothing. Then, months later, the Air Force general connected to her work disappears also. Now, that is a kind of narrative that keeps people digging. Not because aliens are the most likely explanation, but because the official story feels incomplete. And whenever a story feels incomplete, the UFO world pays attention. And that doesn't make us conspiracy theorists. That just makes us people who have a healthy curiosity. There's a final thought. Monica Reza's case sits right at the intersection of three irresistible mysteries: missing persons, classified aerospace research, and the long shadow of UFO secrecy. And maybe this is just a coincidence. Maybe it's a tragic wilderness disappearance, or maybe it's one of those stories where the public only sees the outer shell while the real story sits buried under layers of national security. I don't know. That uncertainty is exactly why the case refuses to disappear. I don't know if we're any closer to the truth after today's podcast, but I found it interesting. I hope you like it. And we're going to keep looking at this, try to do it in the most thoughtful, considerate way possible, always considering the families and the friends of these people. The last thing that any of us want to do is to add to their personal grief and pain, and just hope and pray for the best for these folks so they can have some closure at some point. If you like the program, don't forget to hit like, follow, subscribe. Doesn't cost a dime. Leave a good review if you can. Until next time, this is UFO Warning. Over and out.